In this video, we're going to design this one-piece swimsuit that I have designed, and I'm going to show you how I made all of these things on this suit. And I'm going to walk you through the pattern. This is the actual pattern of this swimsuit here that I picked out in a magazine. And there are elements in this design that I want to change. I want to show you how to draft these areas. And we're going to use our templates that we put into hard copy from the last video. And if you haven't, it's okay, just trace off your swimsuit template draft onto a new piece of paper and mark off all of your measurements and your darts. Since we drafted our swimsuit template in one-piece form, most of our design as a one-piece is nearly finished. So all we have to do from there is to decide which design we're going to do. And hopefully at this point you have a design. Maybe you have one that you have drawn, like the one that I have right here. Or you have one from a magazine that you've cut out. Mostly the things that have changed in design in swimsuits is the manufacturing, the fabric, the different elements that you put in, the elastic, the stretch fabrics, all the different hardware, all these different things that we can put in our swimsuits, which makes designing swimsuits really exciting, actually. You know, and I've seen many things over the years as, you know, in stretch fabric. And I've been working with stretch fabric for, well, since it came out in 1988. And in the resources, I have actually included links to wholesale distributors where you can get swimsuit fabric and hardware, and I've included links on the hard copy material, the permaplast, and some other links that you might like. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to trace our front swimsuit template onto a separate sheet of paper. We line it up with our center front on our paper. Center front. And we have all of our important marks. Our apex is very important. Our bust dart and the waist dart mark off point 3. I'm going to draw in my legs. And we want to stay in line with the design that we have picked out of the magazine or one that we've traced off. On our first pattern in our draft and our template, we marked off all of our bust measurements. And we're going to mark those in our new draft for the design. And we're going to draw a circle with our ruler right here. And if you see the holes here, we take the 0 hole and we take the aw that we have. We put the aw at the apex point, and we take our ruler, and just before our cleavage point, and we just draw a circle, and this gives us the area that we want to cover completely for the one piece. What I prefer to do, and most swimsuits do this when you design, that all of your areas, all of your connection areas, the shoulder strap, the side bust connection, the hip connection, and the crotch connection are all the same measurement, like 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches, an inch. It just depends. When you look at the shoulder strap, you see that it's just 1 inch here. And the side bust is 2 3/8. I'm going to start on the front on the shoulder strap. We're going to draw off 1.5 inches out from the neck point, and we're going to mark that, and we're going to make our shoulder strap 1.25 inches. And add the elastic amount, which is 3/8. Most swimsuits are made with 3/8 braid elastic, and it just depends on who's making it. There's so many different kinds of elastics. This swimsuit that I have made, I'm using the 3-inch braid elastic. And if we put it on the outside edge of our shoulder strap, and then we stitch on top of it, within our circle here, we're going to stay within our circle. And if you follow along and measure out the measurements that you took for your above bust or your top cup, whichever, you can decide right now if you want it to be lower or higher than that measurement. I'm going to stay just above my circle right here, and I'm going to go to my center of my apex. So I'm going to take my hip curve to draw a line down from my shoulder inside the seam allowance mark, draw my stitching line, and then we will be adding our 3/8. When we do stretch factorization, we're going to find the stretch value of the fabric that we're going to use. I'll show you the value of this fabric, and then we're going to fold out that amount on the pattern. So essentially, it's going to shrink. It's going to reduce the size of the pattern. And then we're going to retrace the seam allowance marks, the edges. We're going to retrace it, and then we're going to cut it out. It's kind of complicated, but I'll show you. It's a lot of fun. And then we're going to come down to the side here to the bust dart. I like to lower the bust dart. In the draft, we noted the bust itself, and we know how much bust it is. 3 inches and a quarter, 3 3/8, maybe bigger, maybe smaller, whichever. But we want to maintain that amount in the move. So we're going to move the bust dart under the top leg. I'm going to lower it 1 inch. I'm going to make a mark outside here, and I'm going to go to the bottom leg and make a mark outside here. This amount from here to here is what we want to maintain. And this is, for me, is 3 3/8. So we want this new line here to be 3 3/8. We're going to draw our line from this lowered point right here. We're going to draw our line and establish that and measure down 3 3/8 from there and draw our line to connect that. We're going to fold that, put it on top of our new leg, and draw a line from our waist up to our original pattern. Nothing's changed. We're going to add our seam allowance because we're going to add our connector point. And we're going to cut that just right there because we want to keep our paper. We don't want to cut everything out right now because we want to keep the paper so that we have something to fold. And then we're going to do a lot of blending. So keep your paper as much as you can. We're going to cut this up here like that just to show you our new bust dart. So we have lowered the bust dart and we're going to add the seam allowance plus a fold amount on top of that so that we have room for the bust to stretch and the elastic to operate inside the fabric here, which will be, of course, 3/4. And then we're going to subtract down the 3/8 and mark that on as our stitching line. We're going to cut this line here, but we're going to trace from the shoulder point up here. We're going to connect this point, our stitching line, and we trace off seam allowance. We fold out our dart and measure down this seam the 1.25" connector and add the 3/8 seam allowance. We're going to adjust the keyhole here and make this connection point 1.25", and we're going to raise this point right here to the waist here, and we're going to do that on the pattern. If we measure the side seam directly in the center side seam over to the keyhole opening edge, we want to make both sides the same amount. We measure that and we adjust it on the pattern. But before we can adjust the keyhole on the front and the back, we have to trace off the back template like we did the front, and we do it really quickly because we have it in hard copy. And we line it up with our lines on our dotted paper up the center back, and we mark our back dart for the keyhole. We start at the 3/8 cutting edge that we made for the side bust connection, and we add 3/8 to the waist that we want to increase the waist, and we add in, we measure in from the side seam the 1.25 inches and mark that, and add the 3/8 elastic. Make a smooth curve. And you have your keyhole. And we walk it to the back. At the waist point, up the side seam to the arm's eye point, at our cutting point, down to the elastic. We add the elastic 3/8. Square it off. And we measure out on the back from our elastic edge out 1.25 inches, and we mark that and add the 3/8 to the back waist and add the 3/8 to the keyhole, and we do the same thing to the back as we did the front. We draw in our cutting line, and you have your back and your front keyhole points that we're going to cut out, and we're going to fold, and then we go to the hip. We start at the hip and we measure off our 1.25 inch mark, and we mark that, and we add the 3/8 elastic, and on the side connector we add the 3/8 seam allowance, and we'll be rounding that out when we cut for the assembly. Walk the back down and mark where the cutting line is and add our 3/8, and you have your front and back hip connections. And that concludes the first part of designing our one-piece swimsuit. In the next video, we're going to finish designing our swimsuit, this one piece and yours, and we're going to learn stretch factorization and folding for stretch. I'll see you in the next video.